quite a woman, Mom.
Have you ever wondered what heartbreaking secrets lie hidden behind Caroline Ingalls' gentle smile? Was Michael Landon, the perfect hero on screen, truly the man we all believed him to be? Get ready, because Karen Grassle's story at age 82 will leave you unable to look away from the truth. Hello, my dear friends. Picture a peaceful evening, sitting by the window, watching the soft breeze drift by. And I, your trusted companion, am about to share a story that will stir your heart. Today, we'll travel back in time to the 1970s, when Little House on the Prairie brought joy and comfort to millions of American families. But are you curious about what happened behind the spotlight? Karen Grassle, the beloved Caroline Ingalls, stayed silent for decades. At 82, she's chosen to speak out, revealing what Michael Landon, a television icon, did to her. Join me on this journey. Karen Grassle's story isn't just about Hollywood, it's about a woman's resilience in the face of silent injustice. We'll walk through her life, from her childhood in California to the challenges on the set of Little House on the Prairie. Are you curious about what happened behind the scenes? Sit back, relax, and let me guide you through a story that will change how you view your favorite show. Karen Grassle was born on February 25, 1942, in Berkeley, California, to a modest middle-class family. Her father, Gene Grassle, was a salesman, and her mother, Ella Berry, was a teacher who instilled in Karen a love for art and literature. From a young age, Karen showed a talent for acting. She performed in school plays, her sparkling eyes seemingly destined to shine on stage. After high school, Karen studied at the University of California, Berkeley, where she honed her acting skills and nurtured big dreams. But did you know? Her path to Hollywood was far from easy. Karen spent years performing in local theaters, from Shakespearean plays to experimental dramas, before setting foot in the entertainment capital. In the early 1970s, Karen moved to Los Angeles, carrying hope and determination. She landed small roles on television but faced fierce competition and biases against women in the industry. Can you imagine? A young, talented actress, struggling to be recognized in a world where women's voices were often dismissed. Then, a golden opportunity arrived. In 1974, Karen was cast as Caroline Ingalls in Little House on the Prairie. It was the role that changed her life, bringing her name to millions of viewers. But, as we'll see, that spotlight came with a heavy price. Karen wasn't just an actress, she was a scholar at Berkeley. She studied not only acting, but also literature and philosophy, fields that shaped her deep perspective on art. She once dreamed of becoming a theater director, but Hollywood was a tough place for women aspiring beyond acting roles. Karen worked tirelessly, from small commercials to guest spots on TV. Every step was a battle, and she knew that to succeed, she needed both talent and patience. When she landed the role of Caroline Ingalls, Karen was 32, an age when many actresses were considered too old to break out. But Michael Landon saw something special in her and chose her. Curious? What made Michael pick Karen? Perhaps it was her warmth, her authenticity, and her ability to convey emotion with few words. The role of Caroline was a challenge, as she wasn't just a mother, but the soul of the Ingalls family, holding strong in the toughest times. But as filming began, Karen realized this wasn't just a role, it was a fight for survival. Michael Landon wasn't only the lead actor, he was also the producer, writer, and sometimes director. He held all the power, from scripts to final decisions on set. And Karen, despite being the heart of the show as Caroline, was in a very different position. She was an actress, a woman, in an era when women's voices were rarely heard. In the early seasons, things seemed fine. Karen and Michael worked together, delivering emotional scenes that brought audiences to tears. But as the show became a phenomenon, Karen uncovered a painful truth. Her salary was far lower than Michael's and other male co-stars. Can you imagine? A woman central to the show, adored by viewers, paid like a supporting actress. Karen decided to speak up, demanding fair pay. And that's when everything changed. According to Karen, Michael didn't react with anger or threats. Instead, he chose a subtler, crueler approach. Scripts began to shift. Caroline's key scenes were cut. Her emotional moments were shortened. Even Michael's character, Charles, started dominating major storylines, pushing Caroline to the background. Do you feel the injustice? Karen felt punished for daring to demand what was rightfully hers. But that wasn't all. Behind the cameras, Michael began behaviors that deeply hurt Karen. He often made crude comments and disrespectful jokes, especially during intimate scenes. Once, in a romantic scene between Charles and Caroline, Michael deliberately altered his performance, turning the moment absurd and leaving Karen humiliated. Can you picture it? A woman forced to smile, act, and pretend nothing was wrong while her heart was breaking. So why didn't Karen leave? Why didn't she speak out then? My dear friends, we must remember this was the 1970s. Women in entertainment faced harsh choices: stay silent or lose everything. Karen had spent her life building her career. She knew Little House on the Prairie was a rare opportunity, and challenging Michael Landon, beloved by fans and protected by producers, could destroy her. So she endured. She smiled in interviews, praised Michael, and kept her pain private. But that silence wasn't easy. Every time Karen stood beside Michael in an interview, calling him wonderful, she felt she was betraying herself. She lived with the conflict between being Caroline Ingalls, the perfect mother, and Karen Grassle, the woman enduring injustice. Have you ever wondered what kept her going? It was her love for acting, her commitment to the audience, and her belief that one day she'd find a way to break free. And that day came, though it took decades. At 82, Karen broke her silence. She began writing her memoir, Bright Lights, Prairie Dust. Initially, she only wanted to share her life story, from her California childhood to her Hollywood struggles. But as she wrote, painful memories flooded back. Karen realized she could no longer hide the truth. She didn't write to seek revenge or destroy Michael Landon's legacy. She wrote to heal, to free herself from the burden she'd carried for decades. In her memoir, Karen recounts the most heartbreaking moments. She recalls a contract negotiation where she asked for fair pay. Afterward, Michael altered a kissing scene between Charles and Caroline, making it awkward and punitive. To Karen, it wasn't just a scene. It was a warning. She could be replaced. She felt powerless, with no one to turn to and no system to protect her. Yet she carried on, because she loved her role, her audience, and refused to give up. This wasn't just Karen's story. She writes that Michael often acted inappropriately on set, making crude jokes about women's bodies, even in front of children. As the boss, no one dared challenge him. Karen saw it all, but stayed silent. She knew speaking out would label her as difficult, a reputation no actress, especially one nearing 40, could afford in the 1970s. But silence came at a cost. Karen carried that pain into every audition, interview, and public appearance. Each time she spoke about Michael Landon, she forced herself to say insincere praises. It felt like living a dishonest life. Can you imagine? What strength helped her endure? It was resilience, belief in her worth, and hope that one day she'd share her truth. That chance came with Bright Lights, Prairie Dust. The book isn't just Karen's story. It's a testament to what women endured in entertainment. She writes about her childhood, her Hollywood struggles, and the wounds from Little House on the Prairie. It's not only about Michael Landon, but about a system, an era, where women stayed silent to survive, remarkably, despite everything. Karen remained gracious. In the late 1980s, when she learned Michael Landon had cancer and little time left, she did something extraordinary. She sat down and wrote him a letter, not to accuse or list her hurts. Instead, she thanked him for the opportunity to be in Little House on the Prairie and said she forgave him. Can you imagine? A woman, after all that pain, choosing forgiveness, seeking peace for both. That letter reached Michael. Those close to him say he cried reading it. It was one of his final interactions before his death in 1991. For Karen, the letter didn't erase the past, but it brought her peace. She didn't share this story for years, not until her memoir's release, and when the book came out, it sparked a wave of emotions. Dear friends, picture this: a generation of fans, raised on Michael Landon as the perfect father, suddenly faced the truth that he wasn't who they thought. Some felt betrayed. Some were angry. But many, especially women, empathized with Karen. They saw her story wasn't just about Michael Landon. It was about a system, an era, where women had to stay silent to survive. After the memoir's release, some former cast and crew spoke up. They confirmed the Little House on the Prairie set wasn't always as warm as it appeared. Some recalled Michael's erratic temper, crude jokes, and use of power to control. Even Melissa Gilbert, who played Laura Ingalls, hinted that Michael had complex sides, though she still cared for him. But what truly moves me is how Karen told her story. She didn't shout or seek controversy. She spoke with calm dignity, like an old friend sharing a long-held secret. She didn't deny Michael Landon's talent. She acknowledged he was a complex man, charming, creative, but also capable of coldness and cruelty. By telling the truth, Karen opened a broader conversation, not just about Hollywood, but about what we choose to believe about our heroes. Have you ever wondered? How strong must women like Karen Grassle have been to overcome those challenges? In the 1970s, there was no Me Too movement, no social media to share stories. They had only patience, resilience, and faith that one day the truth would be heard. Karen waited, and when she spoke, she inspired thousands. Women who'd stayed silent, who'd felt dismissed, found strength in her story. The era's context is worth reflecting on. In the 1970s, Hollywood was a place of power and inequality. Men like Michael Landon were indulged. Even when their actions hurt others, women, meanwhile, often chose between enduring or losing their careers. Karen lived through it all. She smiled through insults, swallowed slights, and pretended everything was fine, but she never let that pain define her. She kept working, kept shining, and ultimately found her voice. Karen also faced personal struggles off-set. As an actress, she balanced career and private life. She married Leon Russom, an actor and director. But the marriage ended in divorce. Later, she married Alan Radford, and they had a daughter, Lily. But Karen's family life wasn't always easy. She became a single mother, raising Lily while continuing her acting career. These challenges only made her stronger, and she brought that resilience to every role. After Little House on the Prairie, Karen continued acting but never found a role as iconic as Caroline Ingalls. She appeared in some TV movies and theater, often in smaller parts, partly because Hollywood offered few opportunities for women over 40, and partly because Karen chose a quieter life, focusing on family and other passions. She also engaged in social causes, advocating for mental health and women's rights in entertainment. But Caroline Ingalls remained part of her. Fans still remember her as the tender mother who brought emotional moments to Little House on the Prairie. And with her memoir, Karen gave audiences something even more valuable: the truth. She shared not only her struggles but also her forgiveness, courage, and ability to overcome pain, to rediscover herself. Dear friends, looking back at Little House on the Prairie, we may not see it the same way. But I think that's a good thing, because the truth, however painful, is always worth it. Karen Grassle gave us a gift, not just beautiful screen memories, but a lesson in courage, standing up for oneself, and forgiving, even when the heart still aches. One more thing about Karen. After her memoir's release, she faced both support and criticism. Some accused her of trying to tarnish Michael Landon's legacy, but those who understood her era, who knew the struggles of women in Hollywood, stood by her. They saw a woman who waited until she had nothing left to prove, then spoke from her heart. Karen used her story to advocate for important causes. She promoted programs supporting mental health for women in entertainment and pushed for fair treatment on sets. She emerged not as a victim, but as a survivor, a woman who overcame pain and grew stronger. Did you know? Karen's story isn't just about Hollywood. It's about all of us. It's about the times we've had to stay silent, the times we've endured, and the times we've found strength to speak. Karen gave us a mirror, a reminder that, no matter how long it takes, the truth will find its way. Now, at 82, Karen Grassle is more than Caroline Ingalls. She's a symbol of resilience, courage, and forgiveness. She's lived a meaningful life, leaving a legacy not just on screen, but in the hearts of those who've heard her story. Let me take you back to a special moment in Karen's life. When she wrote that letter to Michael Landon, she didn't know if he'd read it. She didn't expect an apology or change. She just wanted to close a painful chapter. And when she heard Michael cried reading it, she knew, though the past couldn't change, she'd done the right thing. That's the power of forgiveness. Friends, it doesn't erase pain, but it brings peace. Karen's story also makes us reflect on the heroes we admire. Michael Landon was an icon, bringing joy to millions, but he was human, with flaws and mistakes. Karen didn't aim to destroy his image. She wanted to add perspective, a truth she'd kept too long, and that, what me, is an act of courage. Dear friends, think of the women in your life, maybe your mother, grandmother, or an old friend. What challenges did they face in an often unfair world? Where did they find strength to carry on? Karen's story reminds us that women's resilience is an endless source of inspiration, no matter the era. When Karen's memoir was published, it wasn't just a book. It was a call to revisit what we've accepted and what we can change. Karen didn't just tell her story. She started a conversation about power, respect, and truth. And did you know? Karen's story isn't over. She continues to inspire through her memoir, her appearances, her heartfelt words, and her commitment to social issues. She's proof that, at any age, you can find your voice and make a difference. I want to share more about Karen's life after Little House on the Prairie. After the show ended, she tried various roles, but none matched Caroline Ingalls' impact. She did theater and some TV movies, often in supporting parts, partly because Hollywood had few roles for women over 40, and partly because Karen chose a quieter life, focusing on raising Lily and exploring new passions. Karen was also a strong advocate for social issues. She joined campaigns for mental health, especially for women in entertainment, and spoke out for fair treatment on sets. These efforts were not just giving back, but also healing her own wounds. Did you know? Karen faced personal struggles too. After divorcing her first husband, Leon Russum, she navigated single motherhood. Her second marriage to J. Alan Radford also ended. But Karen built a meaningful life, centered on family and career. What I admire about Karen is how she handled her past. She didn't let pain define her, nor did she avoid it. She faced it. Through her memoir and sharing her story, she showed us that, no matter what you've endured, you can find strength to move forward. Karen's story also reminds us of forgiveness's importance. Writing that letter to Michael Landon, she forgave not just him, but herself. She moved past her pain, finding peace in accepting what happened. That's a lesson for us all, friends. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It's living free from the past's hold. Have you thought about the women in your life who endured silently? Maybe a mother, sister, or friend. What did they do to overcome? Karen Grassle is a vivid example of a woman's strength. She endured insults, crude jokes, and set injustices, but she never let them destroy her. She used them to grow stronger, find her voice, and inspire others. Karen's story also challenges what we believe. Michael Landon was a screen hero, but human with flaws. Karen didn't want to ruin his legacy. She wanted us to see a complex truth, and that, to me, is courageous. Dear friends, think about times you stayed silent in life. Maybe a moment you felt unfairly treated or didn't speak up for fear of loss. Karen Grassle showed us that, no matter how long it takes, your voice can be heard. She waited until 82 to tell her story, and when she did, she changed lives. I want to share more about her memoir's impact. When Bright Lights, Prairie Dust was published, it wasn't just a book, it was a small revolution, urging other women to share their stories. Many, from actresses to everyday women, found courage through Karen's example. She sparked a dialogue about power, respect, and balance in entertainment. Did you know? Karen received heartfelt feedback from fans. Many, especially women from the 1970s, wrote to thank her for speaking out. They shared their own silenced moments, saying Karen's story made them feel less alone. That's the power of sharing, friends. Speaking your truth helps you and gives others courage. Karen also used her voice for bigger causes. She joined campaigns raising mental health awareness in entertainment, where pressure and injustice can leave deep scars. She advocated for fair workplaces where women are respected and heard. These actions were both community service and personal healing. Now, let me take you back to another moment in Karen's life. When she decided to write her memoir, she feared criticism, being called bitter or accused of attacking Michael Landon's legacy. But she pressed on, knowing the truth mattered. And when the book came out, the support exceeded her hopes. People wrote, sharing how her story touched them, thanking her for her courage. Karen's story also reminds us to listen. In the 1970s, women's voices were often ignored, but Karen showed that with time, those voices can be heard. She taught us about patience, courage, and persistence in seeking justice. Have you thought about the women who paved the way for you? Karen Grassle is one. She endured unimaginable challenges, using them to drive change. She lived through a tough era, finding ways to grow stronger and inspire others. Her story also makes us reflect on what we value. We admire celebrities, but rarely consider their sacrifices. Karen showed us that behind success lie struggles, pain, and silent battles. By speaking out, she gave us a gift, truth, however painful. Dear friends, I want to share more about Karen's impact. After her memoir, many revisited Little House on the Prairie with fresh eyes, questioning what they believed. And that's good. Facing truth helps us learn, grow, and build a better world. Karen inspired other women in entertainment. Young actresses said her story gave them strength to speak against injustice. She became an icon, not just for Caroline Ingalls, but for her courage and honesty in sharing her truth. Now, At 82, Karen Grassle lives a meaningful life. She remains active in social causes, shares her story, and inspires others. She's proof that, at any age, you can make a difference. Find your voice and live fully. Dear friends, before I close, I have a question. Have you admired someone, only to learn they weren't perfect? How did you handle that truth? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, please like, share with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. We'll meet again in the next video. Wishing you a warm and meaningful day.